Good.
And I'm interested in your next story.
Yes, we're talking about children's football and the behaviour, not just on the pitch, but by parents on the sidelines. What's the worst you've seen, Mike? Because you've been at a lot of...
I did have a friend who was attacked with a handbag wielded by a grandma. This was in Southampton. And I did a report about a year ago on the Referees Respect campaign, where they had this exclusion zone, where this 1 metre boundary where parents couldn't step over. So I'll be interested to see how that's working. Yeah, well, let's introduce our guests properly. Mike, thanks very much indeed. Children's football, of course, meant to be fun, but the sight of a parent screaming abuse at players and referees from the touchline, well, it can take all the enjoyment out of it, of course.
Yes, to tackle what it describes as, and this is their words, the gobby morons, the FA is setting up an online football club, Respect FC. In a moment, we'll talk to Respect ambassadors, Deborah Wyatt, comedian Mark Watson. Very good morning to you.
Morning.
First, here's Mark introducing Respect FC with a little help from former player Neil Razor-Ruddock.
Football fans, it's a beautiful game. I'm looking around, and I've got to tell you, it's not looking all that beautiful at the moment.
Don't look at me! Move! Pass the ball to another player!
Gobby morons are giving it this and that at everyone and everything.
How many goals have you let in this season? Why are you going? What are you looking at, you birds? What you looking at? You no good at a train!
And that's just the under-10s.
You're passing like a...
But no one says a thing.
Score, your dad, a goal!
I'm not surprised no one says a thing. He's a bit scary, isn't he? Mark's here, along with Deborah Wyatt, Respect ambassador. Very good morning to you both.
Good morning. Hi. I've got to tell you, he was just as scary in real life.
Was he? Right.
Yeah.
Have you seen that sort of behaviour?
Yeah, I have, and I've only got he's not even a 1-year-old yet, my son, so he's slightly too young for football because he's not quite able to walk yet. It's not going to stop me trying. But you only have to walk past a kids' game in the park to see people getting, and obviously people do get worked up when it's their own kids, but it's when they cross that line into, well, abuse. Yeah, it is alarming to see, especially, as you say, a game that's meant to be fun.
And Deborah, you've witnessed it firsthand, have you?
Oh yeah, my son was subject of abuse, but not by the opposing players, but the parents and manager at the side of the pitch.
But give us what kind of thing?
Oh, name-calling, abuse. We're going to get you next week. Threats. You know, see you when you return at our pitch. So, that sort of thing. Yeah, very ugly.
I mean, my children play football, but I don't think I've ever spent long enough at the touchline or seen that kind of behaviour, and I'm not sure that goes on where they play, hopefully, fingers crossed. How has it got to that stage that we have tolerated that sort of behaviour?
It's a good question. I think part of the problem is that it's not just at that level, it's everywhere in football. There's just and this is what the campaign is about, really, trying to, you know, spread respect throughout the game. I mean, there are a lot of great things about football, you know, it brings people together in all sorts of ways, but if you get a sort of culture of, you know, shouting and name-calling throughout football, then it will filter down to, and especially if you've got dads who, this is maybe their main vent, you know, maybe this is their big chance to shout and stuff. It's the same with a lot of fans, you know, you go to the match on Saturday, this is your chance to get a lot of sort of nervous energy out, and that's fair enough, but when it gets to a stage where that means that you're yelling at a 12-year-old or a 6-year-old or whatever, then yeah, you feel it's been tolerated for too long, maybe.
Now, I've been on the touchline because my son plays football, and the people who are the worst offenders, if you like, are precisely the kind of people who you are not going to walk up to and say, excuse me, my friend, would you mind not, you know, I mean, that's part of the problem, isn't it? That, you know, there are people who are like that on the touchline, and they are intimidating people, and possibly you really don't want to.
Give you a mouthful abuse back if you say, you know, I really don't want you to call my son that name.
And curiously, the other reaction can be, don't you care about your son winning or losing? You know, as if it comes with the territory. You know, being competitive means you've got to be like that, and that's another cultural thing, isn't it?
Well, there's passion, isn't there? There's encouraging your child, but it's when it turns to the abuse, not just to the referee, but they start abusing the manager, the coach on the touchline, other parents. They question the managers, why have you put him in that position? They get really, really ugly,
but you're right,
but they use abuse.
It is hard to stand up to, because it's very hard to be put on the spot and said, it's the same at a football match, if people will say, if you're not shouting, do you not care? That's quite a hard thing for a football fan to hear, because there's a lot of ways of emotionally involving yourself without shouting. I mean, you can shout as much as you want, it's just you don't have to pick on people in that way.
So we're all sitting here agreeing that it's unacceptable behaviour and something's got to be done about it. And what's your advice? I mean, how you launched this campaign? It's got fantastic motives. What do you do?
Well, the programme was launched a couple of seasons ago, and it's there to support. It was there to support the referee. What we're asking is the parents and spectators, which are the main perpetrators, to stand back and just think how they're behaving. There are codes of conduct, and we ask the clubs, the teams, the clubs and the leagues to support them. And then the county FAs, they'll support it as well, and discipline has to come in.
It's interesting, isn't it, Mark? Because, I mean, whatever you say, if you watch a lot of Major League football, big stars playing, that thing of haranguing the referee, and, you know, gathering round, and that sense of intimidation, which seems to have become, that too seems to be accepted now.
It's crept up more and more.
Well, I mean, is that surely the problem? If you deal with that, then the filter down thing has to work, doesn't it?
Yeah, because it's pretty hard for me to stand up and sort of politely say to all the other fans, let's all try and be a bit nicer, if you can see people on the pitch basically shoving refs at us. So the aim is to just, you know, very gradually kind of spread it through the game. But you're right, it kind of has to filter down from the top, really, because footballers don't set an example of respect themselves, and it's really hard. Luckily, that's why we've got people like Neil Ruddock, Robbie Savage is on board. Some of the worst behaved footballers of recent years have sort of...
Yeah, but not current players,
signed
though.
up.
What, I mean...
No, I think the next step is to get current players. I think, as you say, most of the professional, well, all of the leagues have sort of signed up to this campaign. So, but it is a gradual thing, as you say. While footballers are still yelling at refs, it's pretty hard to convince anyone else that they shouldn't, especially when footballers are earning the money they do. Yeah, but it's all about tiny steps.
The youngsters see them as role models as well, don't they?
Of course.
They copy them.
Well, thanks so much for coming in to talk to us, Mark Watson and Deborah Wyatt. Respect FC. Thank you.
Let's